Hi viewers! Welcome back to my channel. If you are new in my channel, do not forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so that you'll be updated for more videos that I'm going to upload in my channel.
When I wake up, I feel cozy, yeah. Can you hold up? Don't need no coffee yet. Got no makeup.
Today I'm going to discuss about solving quadratic equation by completing the square. Let us have an example. Example number 1. Find the roots or zeros of x squared minus 4x minus 5 equals 0 by completing the square. Solution. Squared minus 4x minus 5 equals 0. Our equation here is written in standard form. We cannot apply completing the square if the quadratic equation is in standard form. So what we are going to do is we are going to transpose the constant term to the other side of the equal sign. So here will become x squared minus 4x equals 5. In this case, we can now apply completing the square. So let us continue. X squared minus 4x, you are going to add a number here to make this one a perfect square trinomial. So x squared minus 4x plus, what will be the number that we are going to add to make a perfect square trinomial? The answer is 4. Why is it that we add 4? It's because the process is we are going to divide the coefficient of the linear term by 2. So we have negative 4 divided by 2. What is the result? The result is negative 2. And after dividing, you are going to square the quotient. So our quotient here is negative 2. So negative 2 squared. What is the result? Positive 4. This is now the number that we are going to add to make this a perfect square trinomial. Okay. So if you add 4 in the left side, you also add 4 to the right side to make it equal. So this is now called a perfect square trinomial. Perfect square trinomial. Now, a perfect square trinomial can be expressed as a square of binomial. This could be expressed as square of binomial. How we are going to make this one as a square of binomial? Create a parenthesis, then squared, equals, add the numbers here. We have 9. Okay? And then, what is inside in the parenthesis? Inside the parenthesis is a binomial. And how we are going to write the binomial? Here, the first term, you are going to get the square root of the first term of our perfect square trinomial. So here our first term is x squared. Get the square root of x squared. What is the result? Ma-cancel out 2 and the radical symbol. So here we have x. Then what is our sign here? It's minus. Okay? And get the square root of the constant term. What is the square root of 4? That is 2. So that is now the binomial inside the parentheses. So this is called square of binomial. Square of binomial. Then, let us go back with our first topic about solving quadratic equation, which is subtracting square root. So we are going to apply Subtracting square root after making a trinomial into the square of its binomial. Now subtract square root both sides. X minus 2 quantity squared. Subtracting square root both sides. And do not forget the positive and negative here. If you remember solving quadratic equation by subtracting square root. So this will be cancelled out because exponent and the index are the same, so cancelled out. So what is left? X minus 2. X minus 2. Then what is square root of 9? Then what is square root of 9? Square root of 9 is 3 because 9 is a perfect square number. So we have two values of x here. X minus 2 equals the positive 1, 3. Then x minus 2 the negative equals the negative 3. Solve for x by transposing negative 2 to the right side. So x here equals 3 plus 2. And then add, you have 5. X equals 5. And the other side, also transpose negative 2 to the right side. Copy negative 3 plus 2. Here, by the rules of adding integers, the result is negative 1. So these are now the roots of this equation, 5 and negative 1. Okay, that is solving quadratic equation by completing the square. Now, if we use factoring in this equation, because this equation is factorable, we can factor out that one. We can factor out this one. Okay? So I'm going to erase this one. By factoring, another solution by factoring. So we have by factoring x squared minus 4x minus 5 equals 0. Then create two parentheses, then equate to 0. Then factor out the quadratic term here. So we have x times x. Since a is equal to 1, then we can now apply the idea that finding the factors of negative 5, that the sum is negative 4. So I think that is negative 5 and positive 1. If you multiply these two numbers, the result is negative 5. If you add negative 5 plus 1, the result is negative 4, which is the coefficient of our linear term. This is the constant term, the product is the constant term, and the sum is the coefficient of the linear term. So our factors will be negative 5 and positive 1. So these are not correct factors, then equate the factors to 0. X minus 5 equals 0, and the other side, x plus 1 equals 0. Then solve for x. X equals 5, and x equals negative 1. Take a look. They have the same answers, but if we are going to solve it quickly, we should use factoring instead of completing the square, because we only wanted to find the roots or zeros. So if the equation is factorable, then we use factoring. Now, the importance of completing the square: all quadratic equations can be solved by using completing the square. But not all quadratic equations can be solved by factoring. It's because some of the quadratic equations cannot be factored. So that is why mathematicians introduce the idea of completing the square. Like, for example, example number 2. Find the roots or zeros of x squared plus 2x minus 1 equals 0. Now, if we are going to use factoring, okay, by factoring, x squared plus 2x minus 1 equals 0. Okay, make two parentheses here. Then factor out the first term. And then, since a is equal to 1, then let us apply the idea of finding the factors of negative 1 that the sum is 2. We all know that the factors of negative 1 is negative 1 times 1. No other factors. It's always negative 1 and 1. Now, if we get the sum of negative 1 and 1, what is the result? It's 0. Our coefficient here is 2. So therefore, this equation cannot be factored. Since cannot be factored, then we are not going to use factoring. Factoring is not the best idea in solving of this equation. That is why completing the square was introduced. Because not all quadratic equations can be solved by factoring. So let us now apply the idea of completing the square. Solution. X squared plus 2x minus 1 equals 0. Then we are going to transpose the constant term to the other side. X squared plus 2x equals 1. Then after transposing the constant term to the right side of the equal sign, we are going to make this one a perfect square trinomial. So here x squared plus 2x. The same idea. You are going to divide the coefficient of the linear term by 2 always. So here the coefficient of the linear term is 2. So we have 2 divided by 2. The result is 1. And square the quotient after dividing. No? The quotient here is 1. So you have squared. You are going to square 1. 1 squared. The answer is 1. So this is the number that you are going to add. Plus 1. Okay? Equals 1. Since you add 1 in the left side, you also add to the right side to make the statement equal. So this is called perfect square trinomial. And perfect square trinomial can be expressed as square of binomial. Create a parenthesis, then put exponent 2. Add the numbers here. The result is 2. Then what is the inside here? The inside of the parenthesis is a binomial. What is that binomial? It is the square root of the first term. What is our first term here? X squared. So square root of x squared. Square root of x squared. Cancelled out. X will be the answer. Then what is the sign here? What is the sign after the first term? That's plus. Okay? Then get the square root of the constant term. Our constant term is 1. Square root of 1 is 1. So x squared plus 2x plus 1 is the same as x plus 1 quantity squared. Then, let us continue solving for x by, in this case, we are now using subtracting square root both sides. So x plus 1 equals to quantity of x plus 1 squared equals to subtract square root both sides to solve for x. Okay, cancel out. X plus 1 is left. X plus 1 is left. Then copy. 2 is not a perfect square number, so it remains square root of 2 always. Then we have two values of x. The first one will be x plus 1 equals the square root of 2. X plus 1 equals negative square root of 2. This is the positive one and this is the negative one. Two solutions. Then transpose. X equals negative 1. The sign of square root of 2 here is positive, so plus square root of 2. We cannot combine the two. In algebra, we cannot combine these two numbers. So this is the value of x. One of the values of x. The other side, same thing. You only transpose 1 to the right side. So x equals negative 1 minus square root of 2. These are now the values of x, or the roots or zeros of x squared plus 2x minus 1 equals 0. So that's it. That is the importance of knowing how to solve quadratic equation by completing the square. Because not all equations can be factored. And in this case, the essence of completing the square, all quadratic equations can be solved by using completing the square. In my case, if the equation is factorable, then I'm going to use factoring. If the equation is not factorable, then completing the square is the best solution. Example number 3. Find the roots or zeros of 2x squared plus 8x plus 6 equals 0. By using completing the square. Solution. Copy the equation 2x squared plus 8x plus 6 equals 0. Since it is written in standard form, we are going to transpose the constant term to the other side of the equal sign. So what is left is 2x squared plus 8x equals, the result here is negative 6. Then, here, we cannot make this one a perfect square trinomial. Why? Because our a here is not equal to 1. So we can only apply making a binomial into perfect square trinomial if our a here is equal to 1. So what we are going to do is to cancel out 2. How? By dividing all terms by 2. So here, the answer is 1. So we have x squared plus 4x equals negative 3. So we can now make this one a perfect square trinomial. How? Again, the same process. You are going to divide the coefficient of the linear term by 2. So we have our linear coefficient here is 4. Divide by 2. 2 is constant, always divided by 2. And the quotient will be squared. Our quotient is 2, right? 4 divided 2 is 2. Then 2 will be squared. 2 squared is equal to 4. So here is squared, no? So the result is 4. So the number that we are going to add in this term, is 4 to make it a perfect square trinomial. So we have x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals negative 3. Since you add 4 to the left side, you also add 4 to the right side to make it equal. This is now called perfect square trinomial, PST, perfect square trinomial. And perfect square trinomial can be expressed as a square of binomial. So create a parenthesis, then put the exponent 2 equals, add the two numbers. Here the result is 1 by the rules of adding of integers. And then get the square root of x squared. The result is x. Square root of x squared. The result is x. What is the sign of the linear term? Plus, so you write plus. Then get the square root of 4. Square root of 4 is 2. So this is now our square of binomial. Then we are going to apply subtracting square root both sides to solve the equation. Subtracting square root both sides. Okay. You always put positive, negative 1 here if you subtract square root both sides. Then cancel out. So we have x plus 2 equals positive, negative. But what is square root of 1? The result is 1 because 1 is a perfect square number. And we have two equations here. X plus 2 equals 1 and x plus 2 equals negative 1. Solve for x by transposing to the right side. This will be 1, copy 1. Change, the sign will be changed. Then it's negative 1. 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Okay? Then here, same way, transpose positive 2. Negative 1 minus 2. Copy negative 1. Transpose positive 2. It will become negative 2. So we have negative 1 minus 2. The result is negative 3. These are now the roots of the equation 2x squared plus 8x plus 6 equals 0. Okay? I hope you learned something in my discussion, especially the students nowadays. Thanks for watching, and